All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at the top 10 impact transfers for the 2022 college football season. Of course, there's a numerous amount of players still in the transfer portal, a lot of talent left, but for the most part, the top-end guys, they are already decided on whether we'll be playing for college football at next. They're already enrolled. They're ready to go. Of course, there's a lot of depth, a lot of fillers still out there. They will complete some of these rosters, but again, for the most part, top players, they are decided. And this list is pretty much set in stone moving forward. Looking at the honorable mentions, though, running back Jermaine Burton, he's going to Michigan State. You've just seen what they did with Kenneth Walker, former Pac-12 Player of the Year on offense from 2020. He's headed elsewhere. Of course, they only played 5 or 6 games. It was a shortened season, but he impressed. He's an elusive runner, quick, speedy, twitchy. Despite being severely undersized, he makes up for it in those categories. They also had a Jalen Berger from Wisconsin. He was a really good back for them 2 years ago as well, whenever he got a bulk of the carries in the games he played in. So it'll be a competitive backfield for Michigan State. Very interested to see what happens. But again, they just produced a Doak Walker Award winner who also transferred in. So very excited to see what Broussard and potentially Berger does there. Quinn Ewers, former number 1 recruit, went to Ohio State, made some money. Now he's back at Texas's dream school. Pretty much finessed the whole new NIL deal rules and whatnot. So Quinn Ewers, perfect example. What's probably going to happen in college football, but he's headed to Texas. I like what they're going to be able to do here. Obviously, it was not an open role at Ohio State, that is, with C.J. Stroud being a star. That place right now, Ohio State, is very QB-friendly for recruits, so Ewers, it would have been a few years before he played, so I'm happy to see him get on the field. Got a tremendous amount of arm talent. That's all I really know about him. Never saw his highlights, really, coming out of high school. Only know that he's the number 1 recruit, and a lot of people are high on him, so I'm very interested to see how he does for Steve Sarkisian and that Texas football team. Eli Ricks heads from LSU to Alabama. He was a sticky corner his first year at LSU. He didn't play much this past season, I don't believe. Only about 4 or 5 games, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because him and Sting were both pretty beat up. So he didn't play much, but Alabama, you've seen in the national championship game. Depth at corner was an issue. Coming in the year, I didn't think it would be, but I also expected more to guys like Josh Jobe. He didn't play very well all year long, especially against Treylon Burks. He's now off to the NFL for whatever reason. That's going to be filling a pretty solid void. They're very talented in the secondary. Eli Ricks, though, I think he'll carve himself out a nice role pretty shortly on for the Crimson Tide. Brandon Joseph heading to Notre Dame. I couldn't have thought of a better way to replace Kyle Hamilton than getting Joseph. He's also a pretty rangy, great ball-skilled safety as well, coming over from Northwestern, that first team All-American his freshman year. He had like 6, 7 interceptions. I think it was 6. He led the nation and picks that year. I believe he was actually tied, but he was still up there. Great ball skills. Joseph to Notre Dame. That's a great fit. Great pairing. Jackson Player, the defensive tackle from Tulsa, heads back to Waco. His hometown. Him and Siaka defensive tackle. That interior D-line is going to be very stout. Very excited to see what he can do. He had like 15 tackles this past season. He was a tremendous run stopper. That's going to be fun to watch them play this year. And then the last honorable mention, I think Tanner McAllister following Jim Knowles over to Ohio State. Veteran safety. He's going to help be a big part of this new turnaround on defense. They're going to probably shift to the 4-2-5, I'm pretty sure. And him being a veteran in that system, he's going to be very impactful for them. They've really struggled in the secondary the past couple of years to figure things out. McAllister coming over with his old DC in a familiar system. He's going to be highly impactful for them. So another guy I'm very interested to see how he performs this year. Kicking things off at number 10, Keaton Slovas to Pitt. This was pretty much a no-brainer from the beginning. On a personal level, his girlfriend attends the university. I believe she's on the soccer team. But on the other hand, the reigning ACC champs were set to replace a Heisman finalist in Kenny Pickett. Slovas, he's looking to bounce back after, I'd say, the worst year of his career. He was at the forefront of a highly disappointing USC team. Never appeared to really develop under that young prodigy Graham Harrell. Despite being a pretty good play caller with the air raid offense, he didn't develop one bit, it seemed. Pitt hired Frank Cignetti, its new QB coach, play caller. Mark Whipple obviously goes to Nebraska, so they got new faces all around this offense. But one guy coming back, Jordan Addison, the Blitnikoff Award winner. He's going to ease up the pressure a bit this fall for those new guys. Slovas, he's got some pretty good experience and knowledge. And then, of course, the new OC, Cignetti, wealth of experience. I think him and Slovas this year, they're going to take that next step. Keaton Slovas is, that is. I think they're going to take the next step in his development. This should be a pretty good year, I think, for Pitt's offense. I don't expect too much of a fall off. Very interested to see how he performs this year as they look to repeat in the ACC. Number 9, Spencer Rattler, South Carolina. Rattler went from Heisman favorite last year to being on a different roster in a year's time. It's pretty crazy. But his struggles early in 2021 allowed Caleb Williams to throw his hat in the ring, and, the rest is history. Rattler wasn't great last year, but he wasn't terrible as people are, leading many to believe. I thought behind a poor offensive line, the Sooners couldn't run the ball whatsoever. Rattler, I thought he performed pretty well. Completed 75% of his passes, 187 attempts. And he shined the year prior, showcasing, how good his raw talent really is. Back in 2019, he had 28 touchdowns, 3,031 yards. 2020, that is, not 19. Rattler, he appears to have an ego problem, He's going to reunite with an old pal, though, in Norman and Shane Beamer. I think that's a suspected attitude problem. It's probably going to transition into some confidence this year, especially after how the tenure ended at Oklahoma. He has the skills to lead this team to Atlanta. They host Georgia week 3. I know people are going to have all kinds of opinions on Rattler, and I understand. He didn't live up to expectations one bit this last season, but he's a dangerous player. He's a high-end talent. The raw skills are evident, and he's shown before how impressive he can be. 2020 being an example of that. So Rattler, number 9, I think he's going to have a good season this year. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. We'll see what happens. Number 8, Osiris Torrance, going to Florida. Number of Raging Cajuns followed Billy Napier to Gainesville, but none, I think, will be more impactful than one of the nation's top interior linemen in Osiris Torrance. 6'3", 335-pounder. It's really blossomed into a perennial run blocker. And many suggest he would have likely went within the top 75 picks, I think, in this year's draft. Instead he transfers to Florida with an opportunity to pencil himself in as a first-round selection, with a big season here against some SEC competition. Montreal Johnson, of course, the running back from ULL. He was the Sun Belt Freshman of the Year. He's a big impact player as well, but I think Torrance, for what he can do for the football team and for his own draft stock, this is great. Kind of shocked he didn't go to the draft, but I think this is also a great move, too, because he can really boost his stock tremendously this coming season. Number 7, Cameron Ward, Washington State. Ward follows his former head coach and new OC, Eric Morris, over from Incarnate Word, following a pretty dominant season at the FCS level. They ran that air raid offense. Ward had 47 touchdowns, 4,600-plus yards. He won the Jerry Rice Award in 2020 as the league's best true freshman. Then he followed it up with that highly impressive season where he just loaded the stat sheet up. Ward received attention from the Power 5 ranks, though. He entered the portal. Lane Kiffin was interested. Among other suitors, heavily interested, that is. But he opted to proceed with a familiar face, and the duo is destined to take over the Pac-12 this year. We'll see what happens. They lose a lot of talent on offense. New head coach, who, he's the intern, but very interested to see how Cameron Ward plays. He's got plenty of years of eligibility. Jaden Delora even transferred to Arizona before Ward came in, and I like Delora. So this is a pretty interesting move by Ward. He's going to come from the FCS level. He's going to be one of those names that really takes college football by storm, potentially. Kind of like Bailey Zappi last year, comes over after great numbers at Houston Baptist, and he comes and puts up even better ones at FBS level. So we'll see what happens. Don't think we'll see exactly that type of season from Wazoo in the passing game, but I'm very interested to see how he performs at the next level. Number 6, Jermaine Burton from Georgia to Alabama. Crimson Tide lose 2 superstars in John Mechie and Jameson Williams, but they get a great addition in veteran Jermaine Burton. Burton didn't post great production with the Bulldogs. 53 receptions, 901 yards, 8 touchdowns in 2 seasons in Athens. But the Alabama offense, mixed with Bryce Young throwing the ball, should help, triple Burton's production potentially. He's got that vertical speed, being a veteran at this point in his career. It's going to be an asset for this offense. Burton, he won't quite hit the drum to the tune of a Jameson Williams type of season, but the potential is certainly there to be the team's leading pass catcher. I think you could probably see an 1,100-yard season out of him, something in that category. Big-time addition for Crimson Tide, though. Number 5, Zachary Evans from TCU to Ole Miss. Rebels featured one of the nation's best running games a season ago. They ranked 11th in FBS in yards per game on the round. But coming into 2022, they replaced 3 running backs and Matt Corral, who contributed significantly to the ground game. Evans, though, he's starting to get a bulk of the carries, keeping that in mind. So in this high-flying offense, the departure of Jeff Lebby, though, I think this offense might turn it down a bit in terms of how quick they are, how fast they go. But regardless, the explosiveness, the slashing nature of Evans' game, it's going to allow him to explode for, over 7 yards per carry and 108 yards per game. Well, that's what he did at TCU, rather. I don't know if he'll post crazy numbers like that at Ole Miss, but that's what he brings to the table. Evans wasn't the biggest name Kiffin landed this offseason, you'll see coming up. But he's certainly been one of the key contributors in this offense for years to come. Number 4, Jermaine Gibbs, heading from Georgia Tech to Alabama. Gibbs would be my top underdog Heisman candidate if it wasn't for being in a crowded backfield. It also features guys like Jace McClellan, Trey Sanders. Gibbs, though, he's going to be utilized in a multitude of ways. He can make plays on special teams as a pass catcher, and of course, mainly on the ground, where his shiftiness and athleticism make him difficult to bring down in space. Alabama didn't really need Gibbs, but they wanted him, and you're going to find out why in the fall. There's reports of him already tearing it up in practice, so I think this is going to be a great fit. I might even sprinkle some money on him to win the Heisman because he's really that talented. He's going to do a lot for you on special teams, as a receiver, as a runner, just a pure runner, that is. I think Gibbs is going to be a very great addition for Alabama, and this offense is going to be scary next year. Gabriel going to Oklahoma. Gabriel spurned UCLA following Jeff Lebby's move to OU. The two reunite from their days at UCF, and that was kind of the goal from the get-go, I believe. Gabriel burst onto the scene in 2019 as a freshman, over 3,600 yards and 29 touchdowns, following that up with 3,570 yards and a 32-4 TD to INT ratio. Gabriel only played in 3 games this past season due to injury, but he showcases a nice deep ball and great command of the offense. He's going to fit right into a Sooners locker room still loaded with talent on offense. Guys like Marvin Mims. Gabriel's experience and relationship, though, with the aforementioned Levy gives him in this offense a quite high ceiling for 2022 and potentially beyond. It's one of the top additions of the offseason. The top 3, of course, all quarterbacks. Number 2 is Jackson Dart. Goes to Ole Miss. He made some sporadic appearances for USC last season, showcased how bright of a future he has as the former Gatorade Player of the Year. Once Lincoln Riley took over and the rumors of a reunion of Caleb Williams ran rapid, the Utah native decided to enter the portal. He picked Ole Miss over Oklahoma. The fit with the Rebels is, an extraordinary one. Not only does Ole Miss now have a replacement for Matt Corral, but they get a high upside player in the process with many years of eligibility remaining. Dart has impressive arm talent, a bit of swagger to him that Kiffin and crew should be able to maximize. Can't wait to see how this turns out. I can't even put into words the potential Dart has here playing for Kiffin. This should be really fun to watch. Caleb Williams is number 1, obviously. Goes to USC. He was the biggest surprise in college football last season. Spencer Rattler was benched in the Red River game for the 2nd straight season, but this past year, he wouldn't regain the starting job. Williams impressed with his poise, arm talent, even his football IQ stood out, along with his ability to make plays with his legs. The former high-end 5-star recruit has had a quite unexpected first year at the FBS level. He wasn't even expected to play. He ended up playing a good chunk of his true freshman season, only to transfer to USC right after. Of course, that was in reaction to his coach making an unforeseen move of his own to LA. But that's just as wild as it gets over your first 365 days in college. You play when you're not really supposed to, and then you end up going elsewhere. Pretty crazy stuff for Caleb Williams. Of course, Mario Williams follows him over. DC native, though, finished with over 1,900 yards passing, 21-4 TD to INT ratio, 435 on the ground of 6 more scores. The OU offense struggled at times through the air, but Williams, he's still incredibly young, got a lot of development left. This is obviously the top-ranked recruit. For top-ranked transfer, that is, a lot of potential left. They have 2 years together, him and Riley, at minimum 2 years left, so big addition for USC. Williams has that superstar potential as well. He's on track for it as well. So being in LA with the new rules, the NIL rules, I think he has the potential to really maximize his potential on the field and off of it as well before he even gets to the next level. So let's wrap everything up for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. See you next time.